they're sort of crafting the news consumer pathways in a new way for Gen Z. And this is a part of the big story here from, I guess it came out Friday after we finished the show, or maybe Saturday. But this is from the Washington Post. And the headline here is, "The White House is briefing TikTok stars about the war in Ukraine." And let me read a little bit here. On Thursday afternoon, 30 top TikTok stars gathered on a Zoom call to receive key information about the war unfolding in Ukraine. National Security Council staffers and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki briefed the influencers about the United States' strategic goals in the region and answered questions on distributing aid to Ukrainians, working with NATO, and how the United States would react to a Russian use of nuclear weapons. As the crisis, it's a lot of heavy stuff to be just like dumping on some TikTok influencers, you know.
It's interesting because it shows the high regard and the responsibility being that these influencers are sort of being handed, where once before being a TikTok influencer meant some sort of, fame in a traditional sense. Now is, they're being folded into the propaganda mechanisms. It's a legitimization of the fame that comes with social media influencership, and now it's not just the fun stuff. Now you gotta be in the club.
Right. Yeah. As the crisis in Ukraine has escalated, millions have turned to TikTok for information on what is happening there in real time. Now, remember, TikTok, all the servers are in China. Okay, so just keeping that in mind. TikTok videos offered some of the first glimpses of the Russian invasion, and since then, the platform has been a primary outlet for spreading news to the masses abroad. Ukrainian citizens hiding in bomb shelters or fleeing their homes have shared their stories to the platform, while dangerous misinformation and Russian propaganda have also spread. The TikTok stars, many with millions of followers, have increasingly sought to make sense of the crisis for their audiences. The White House has been closely watching TikTok's rise as a dominant news source, leading to its decision to approach a select group of the platform's most influential names. This week, the administration began working with Gen Z for Change, a nonprofit advocacy group, to help identify top content creators on the platform to orchestrate.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, a briefing.
A whole nonprofit devoted to finding famous TikTokers to push government propaganda.
Which number highest? This one. Yeah, let's talk to that one.
Donations, please.
So a nonprofit advocacy group to help identify top content creators on the platform to orchestrate a briefing aimed at answering questions about the conflict and the United States' role in it. Victoria Hammett, Deputy Executive Director of Gen Z for Change, contacted dozens with invitations via email, gathered potential questions for the Biden administration. And then it goes through a bunch of names and a bunch of people here. But there's this here. After the call, several influencers said they felt more empowered to debunk misinformation and communicate effectively about the crisis.
I would love to see that. I would love to see exactly what this was.
Yeah. TikTok,
are they actually empowered? Have they been given skills and
they've been given a script? That's for sure.
Or have they just been handed the script? Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost as if they're playing God. When they make the prophets eat the scroll. It's like, say this, we are entrusting you to send a message to the people through your TikTok influence.
They're putting a mantle on the prophets.
That's very strange. TikTok has been overrun with false, misleading news since the war broke out. And on Thursday, the company said it would finally begin labeling state-controlled media on its platform.
Now, okay, keep this in mind. They're claiming they're going to label state-controlled media.
Yeah.
Now, what we learned through the FOIA, the other episode, was that this is a second round at a process that was refined during the pandemic, where the Biden administration made $1 billion available for pro-vaccine messaging.
Yeah, they say it in this article that it's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and a lot of that went to influencers and TikTokers,
right.
And so that's what we're seeing here. Now, will TikTok label state-controlled TikToks?
We'll label it for them.
State-sponsored propaganda machinery.
But will it be labeled on the influencers who are being paid by the government? I mean, that's what I'm curious
that's the question.
about.
Yeah, it depends on the money exchange. You know, there's a certain threshold where if the money exchange is good enough, then no, you don't need the label. You know,
I guess
the watermark.
I don't know. Well, that's what I mean. I think it's a setup. Yeah. What I'm implying is no, they will not be putting a label on those influencers who are giving information about the war directly from the U.S. government. Those will not be labeled. What will be labeled is like, this is Russian troll accounts. Do not listen to Russian state-run troll farm. Yeah. And also the interesting connection that TikTok is still Chinese controlled.
Yeah, that's the craziest part about this. They're kind of in the background collecting all the data and distributing it however they want. They're probably handpicking, who gets to be the influencers and all that stuff. It's crazy. Craziness.
Yeah, what exactly does it mean to have a Chinese controlled company
dictating
facilitating American propaganda through government-paid influencers?
That is insanity.
About their friend Russia.
I'm sure there is a conflict of interest somewhere
on there. Yeah.
So here's some. This is a Reuters report on some TikTok influencers in Ukraine specifically. So this is a little bit more niched down. It's not just any influencer out there like the White House, but just to get a glimpse of sort of what's happening with social media and specifically TikTok here.
You'll hear a siren sound 3 and 4 times a day. Russian invasion took the freedom from us.
So I decided to do this media war, as we call it.
And because of the TikTok, 14 million people have seen what it's like to live in Ukraine and what we feel.
As Russia invades Ukraine, some young social media users are experiencing the conflict from the front lines on TikTok. Ukrainian influencers uploaded videos of people crying in windowless bomb shelters, explosions blasting, and missiles streaking across the country's cities. The conflict, which Russia calls a special operation, is the latest example of the central role TikTok plays in bringing news to the Gen Z audience. The app has become so influential that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed to the, quote, TikTokers as a group that could help end the conflict.
Нашого українського народу.
Some influencers, like 18-year-old Alina Volik, have answered the call.
During the first days of war, I wasn't even watching TikTok and I didn't think about posting videos there, but then I just realized that this is unreal and I was watching news all day long. I couldn't leave my phone and I decided to make my video and to show people what it's like to live in Ukraine.
So there you go. There's one influencer just sort of documenting, and a lot of her videos are like, here's me at the park, here's me at the mall. Like there's nothing too crazy going on. There's a couple of them that are a little bit more specific to the war,
right?
But
it's interesting because this report on the TikToker is put together and put out by Reuters,
right.
So again, you have this crossover between internet influencers,
right?
And then becoming a cog in the mainstream corporate news machine.
Right. It's kind of helping. Yeah, it's to connect that audience to the beast system.
I don't even know. Yeah, what it really is like a what is the word for it? Not an infiltration, not
hijacking,
an incorporation. Yeah, hijacking is a sort of a different word for it. Yeah, it's just like, oh well. This actually, thanks to the Biden administration, we've learned that these influencers are a highly effective tool because they have the authenticity that the corporate media lacks. And so, being used. They're a good tool for mainstream corporate media to fill in the holes of the authenticity and the reliability and the primary source. You know, so rarely now do we get good primary sources for stories, but these influencers kind of fill in that gap. It's a very useful tool for the corporate media.
I mean, they're basically considering some of these people, or at least in this article, going back to that Washington Post article, it does mention how they're basically considering some of these people White House correspondents. You know, these new age White House correspondents are these TikTok influencers. Yeah. Ellie Zeiler, an 18-year-old TikTok star with more than 10.5 million followers, says she hopes to remain in communication with the White House and continue to press officials there about key issues. She sees herself as a voice for young people and the growing contingent of news consumers getting information primarily through social media platforms. Quote, "I'm here to relay the information in a more digestible manner to my followers."
Relay. That's exactly
she says it right there.
Relay the information. She gets her information directly from the White House and then puts it into Gen Z speak for TikTokers. And there you go. It's a beautiful sort of forced marriage between Creepy Joe and, young TikTok stars.
Quote, and this is the end of the article, "I would consider myself a White House correspondent for Gen Z." So there you go. This is, it's not just some whatever. So, okay, there's another part of this Reuters report that I find interesting as well. It's worth discussing.
Other Ukrainian TikTokers have made it a mission to share information and spread awareness with Western audiences. One of them is 20-year-old Marta Vasiuta. Shortly before the start of the Russian invasion, Marta traveled to London. She hasn't been able to go back to Ukraine since.
When I posted this first video, at the not even at the beginning, but a couple hours later, it had like 20,000 views, which was really, really insane amount. And when it reached like 20 million views, I was like, that is the half of my country's population.
Marta follows multiple Telegram channels to find news and videos. She says she exercises due diligence in verifying the images and videos before posting them.
In the first days, there were some people that were even DMing me on Instagram saying that I share fake information, that it is Photoshop, it is from Israel and Palestine, it is from other countries, it is from 2014. And I am showing real information. I always put location, time, and date on my videos so people can see it is real.
Researchers warn that false information about the conflict is now mixed in with authentic information and has spread wildly on TikTok and other tech platforms.
Yeah, that's how propaganda works. Ooh,
explosion.
Yeah.
Just to end the report there. Yeah. So there you go. That very interesting. Talking about.
Where is this report from?
This is from Ukraine. This is Reuters in Ukraine. Yeah.
Okay. Reuters still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I get my information from Telegram,
and I stamped it. I make sure it's real, and I stamp time and place. Yes. Like, okay, well, how are you verifying the time and place of these videos?
Exactly. And the funny part about this, as we learned through the pandemic and the whole Trump administration, the corporate news's war on independent media has reached a new level, because it used to be, all this news you're getting on social media isn't real. It's either fake or it's these these right-wing domestic terrorist influencers who are getting their info off of Telegram channels. Can you really believe that? And yeah, they're claiming they are putting the right date and time and location on their videos, but really they're not us. They're not the corporate news. We have whole newsrooms and fact-checking departments. And here we are, a few months later, and the tune has entirely changed. Now it's, look at how great these TikTokers are who get their news off of Telegram channels. And it's absolutely mind-numbing, the 180 that they're taking on this.
Well, it's no surprise. And I think they're going to continue to push this, and there's a whole generation. They labeled it Gen Z. I mean, there's a whole generation that's being tapped into here. They all
finally
online.
Accepted it.
Yeah, they're online. They're on TikTok. I mean, I've heard numbers into the billions using TikTok daily. It's madness, and it's crazy.
Well, they finally accepted that they can't fight it. They
can't
fight the independent news movement, and instead of fighting it, they need to fold it in.
They kind of need to craft it from within, kind of.
They're commandeering the what they used to demonize, and of course they are. That's their job. That's their job, and it's very effective, and they're doing a great job at it.
It's Palpatine influencing young Anakin.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's very interesting. I'm a little concerned about it, and it will be fascinating to watch this type of reporting versus how they start to talk about or continue to talk about, independent news outlets online that they don't like. They're really nice to the ones that work for their narrative, but we'll see how they navigate the complicated doublespeak, which, again, they're very good at.
I find it interesting that we're going through this at a time when, with each iteration of the cycles of these topics, war, and we had just had pandemic and all this kind of stuff. It's obviously intensified in our lifetimes, but with war, it really provokes a lot of emotion, because there's a lot of history there. So bringing in a whole generation to experience all that stuff and then document it on something like TikTok. And
the death of a traditional, journalist in country gives them
maybe
more,
a signal, maybe a symbolic gesture to traditional
certainly
journalism.
Could. It's a very dangerous thing, actually going into the war zone to report on it. So instead of putting, journalists in danger, we are going to just co-opt TikTok stars who are already in country, who are already there, and transform them into the new boots on the ground thing. So we don't need to send elite journos from the highest levels of American journalism in there. So yeah. It's a beautiful thing they're doing. You can say a lot about corporate news. They certainly